Welcome to the woods. It's a beautiful spring day. Sun shining, sky's blue. Torrential downpour last night, but today it's beautiful. And on a day like today, it's difficult to see a downside in the way I live, or where I live. There must be a few, but on a beautiful spring morning, it's difficult to see them. Now, I had planned to have a chat about what's wrong with the system we live in. And I think I will, but it's difficult to dwell on such negative subjects when it's such a nice day. So instead of the massive, long, well-scripted video I did have planned, just going to wing it. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to have a chat with you, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully, there'll be some things in there you agree with, and there might even be some things you disagree with. Whichever way it is, drop something in the comments section. I always try to get back to people, although it might take me a few days. I do at least try. If you're new here, welcome. If you haven't subscribed, hit the button, hit like. All these things help to grow the channel. And thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We went past 8,000 subs a couple of days ago. Thank you for that. That's well appreciated. So let's get back to the negative aspects of the system and society we live in. I kind of broke this down when I was thinking about it into 3 sections. Social system, the way we live, the financial system that we all live within, and the political system. So the social, financial and political. And I'm going to touch on all 3, but not in depth, broad strokes, an overview. So when we think about the way we live, most of our time is going to be taken up with work. As horrible for some as that may be. And you're going to have to work. You're going to have to work to earn money. And you need money to survive. So no money, no survival. And that's the case for nearly all of us. Not all of us, but nearly. And I was thinking about work and jobs. And what is the difference today to, let's say, slavery? Now, everyone thinks of slavery as something you've seen on the TV. Hundreds of people tied together building the pyramids. Groups of people in the fields picking cotton. And the picture that's painted is that slavery is actually a very bad thing. And I'm sure it is. But as a slave, you would have been housed. And you would have been fed. and clothed, and your general health would have been looked after. And the reason for that is fairly obvious. If you were a slave owner and you had something that needed doing, a job, you would want your slaves capable of doing it. So there was no point in starving them to death. That would be a waste of money. So you would feed them, and you'd house them, and clothe them, and look after their health. So that they were capable of being productive. But the problem with slavery is slaves don't much like it. They want to be free. Free, free, free. And they also want to be paid for their labour. They don't want to give it away. So I think what happened, in a roundabout kind of way, is the slave owners got together and they said, look, we're not going to be able to continue this. All of these chaps want to be free, and they all want to be paid. So amongst themselves they decided that what they would do was take the money that they were spending on housing, clothing, feeding and looking after the slaves, and they would give it to the slaves, and they would tell them, you're free. You can work for me, or Bill down the road, or John up the hill. You're free to go and work wherever you want. But now you've got to feed yourself. So you'll be paid for your labour from the money we were spending on you anyway, and you will now need to spend that money feeding, clothing and housing yourself. And you may have some left over to buy the products that you're actually producing yourself. And the slave was quite happy with that, which is odd, because now he's in a position where he's doing the same job, probably in the same place, but he's got to expend even more effort finding shelter, food, clothing and healthcare. Whereas before that was sorted for him. Now, I'm not a proponent of slavery, but what I am trying to point out is that the current system of working and earning money is not that different from outdated slavery. And the reason it's not very different is because you haven't got a choice. Some of you may agree, some maybe not. I wanted to tell you a story about a job I had. When I was younger, I worked for he was a shrewd businessman. And he had a business selling a product. And people came in, they bought the product, and it all seemed to be working well. And then he opened a second shop in the same town, selling the same product, but he called the shop something completely different. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little bemused by this, and I told him, I said, look, I can't see why you've done that. You've opened up another shop which doubles your overheads, And yet the town hasn't expanded, the town's the same, so your customer base seems to be the same. And he explained 3 things to me. He said, you're right, I have doubled my overheads. But the first thing is, not everyone is going to shop at my business. Now that could be because they've heard something negative about my business. It could be the location. It could be me personally they don't like. But for whatever reason, there's going to be a number of people that want that product but won't shop here. But they will shop somewhere else. And the second thing he said was, if I open up a second shop in the same town, it's going to reduce the chance of any other outside business opening up in this town. They'll take a look and say, well, there's 2 there already, so maybe we'll look around for a town with only 1 or none. Which seemed to make sense. And the third thing was, it would bring more people who wanted that product to the area. And he was right. If you were going to buy a car, would you go to a town with 1 garage or a town with 5 garages? Well, you'd go to the town with 5 because your choice is going to be more. So by opening that second shop, he attracted more people to the area that were after the product he was selling. And what he actually did was create the illusion of choice. The people were getting the same product, but they thought they had a choice of who they were buying it from, and that maybe it was slightly different. So the illusion of choice. And this is used every day by global businesses. You may not like buying your toothpaste from Colgate or Colgate toothpaste and switch to another brand, when in fact that other brand is owned by the same company. You may forego Walker's crisps and buy another brand that is actually owned by the same company. So these companies have multiple products, all the same, all the same type, giving you the illusion of choice of where your money is going. And they do it on everything from toothpaste to Tomahawk missiles. And this illusion of choice isn't only used in the business world. It's used in the political sphere as well. It's a card trick. And the winner is always the same. So how would they use that illusion of choice in the political sphere? Well, here in the West, we live within a system of democracy, and we'll quite often see America and Europe, or European nations, wagging their finger in condemnation at other countries that use other ways of governing their people. We're told daily how good democracy is, to the point that it seems that we're allowed to invade other nations and change their governments for them so that they too can be democratic. Now, be that right or wrong, it is what we tend to do. And democracy is often the excuse. And whilst our leaders are stomping all over the world, changing regimes, toppling dictators and enforcing democracy, many of the people back home are scratching their heads and coming to the realisation that democracy's maybe not everything it's supposed to be, or at least not what it's cracked up to be. If you were to stop a number of people on the street and ask them, what's democracy? A lot of them come up with the same word, which is choice. I can choose between different groups, different people, different parties, different leaders, and whoever gets the most votes wins. So choice and the majority rule. Well, it's strange that that word choice is not in the dictionary definition of democracy. And we shouldn't be surprised at that. You see, much the same as that business owner I just told you about, who created the illusion of choice. With two separate businesses, two separate names, but the same product. The political parties today are different bottles filled with the same wine, with the same group at the back controlling each of them. Which is why no matter who you vote for or who gets into power, the direction of travel never seems to change. And you have heard your friends say, and you've probably said yourself, that they're all the same. It doesn't matter which one you vote for, nothing ever changes. And there's a reason for that. It's that these people are nothing but vessels, frontmen. The real power lies behind them. The direction is given to them from above. Democracy in our current system is a sham. Nothing but a card trick, where the winners are always the same, and it's not us. The system is simply there for the public to show their frustration from time to time and pick someone else who will then go on to do exactly the same. So a sham. And the financial system, I've touched on this a few times before, was created to benefit a very small percentage of people, an elite at the top, and not to benefit the general population. It's an unsustainable system where money is created by debt. And the problem with that is that the debt increases and increases. And your government will then tax you ever higher to gain capital to repay the loans to the banks. But it's never quite enough. Until it reaches a stage where in the United Kingdom the interest on the loans we've taken from the banks increases by over £5,000 a second. An amount of money we cannot pay back. An amount of money we will never be able to pay back. Which gives the banks an incredible amount of power to dictate to governments what direction they should take. Because governments, much like a family or an individual, has to pay back the money it borrows, and the money that was borrowed previously. And if it can't, or if it won't, the bank is quite within its rights to foreclose. And if it can't get the money, it will start taking the assets. And nobody really wants that to happen. So this ludicrous situation continues, where the government borrows more money because it's spent too much and can't raise enough in taxation. But it yet taxes you more every year to try and plug that gap that can never be filled, and ends up borrowing more money. So we can see, after just a short 15-minute chat, that both our social system, where we work for corporations who will pay us enough money to survive, with enough left over to maybe buy the products that these same corporations are selling, doesn't really work for us. And the political system is broken beyond repair. A system where people think they've got a choice, but in reality have none. And the financial system that was designed to benefit everybody but us, even that is breaking down. And you would think that some of these people may come to their senses and look at rectifying all or some of these problems. But no. When you look at what's coming down the road, when you read up on the Great Reset, which could be a good idea if they were going to fix anything, but fixing's not their game. Instead, what's being planned is a restructuring of society in order for those elites, that small percentage at the top, to consolidate both their wealth and their power. They understand that technology has reached a level where most of our jobs could be replaced, that the financial system is coming to an end and will need to be replaced. So a restructuring of our social, financial and political systems is on the cards, but not to benefit us, but once again benefit them. Now at the moment, we're not in a position of power. So we can't change that. We can't physically oppose what they have planned. But we can ignore it. We can choose not to take part. We can walk away. And we can build something ourselves. Something better. Something that works. Something that other people can see and would want to be part of. And yes, it will take time and effort and money, but it's worth doing. And we need to start doing it as soon as possible. Or, as much as our system is broken now, the new one is going to be harsher, more restricting, and you have a choice of living within that or forging something better for yourself, for your family, for your children, and for future generations. Choice is ours. Speak to you soon, people. Take it easy.